I'm live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discovering Buddhism. This is I'm Alan. This is the fourth class in this module, Presenting the Path, Module 3, Discovering Buddhism. So thank you for being there. There are a couple of people there, I see. So we've after this class, we're going to have a break. The mid-year break for about just over a month, and the centre will open. Just to remind you, the centre opens again on the 4th of August, which is a Tuesday. So it looks like we'll be starting DB since we teach on Monday. It'll be the following Monday that we actually start, which is Monday, August the 10th. So apparently it's an auspicious day, that Tuesday. So Tony, our director, wants to start the classes that day. So that's fine. I think the plan is also that we'll be staying on online as well as having the live classes at the centre. I think that's the plan, which I think will suit some people who may not want to drive every Monday to the centre. So the other thing I was thinking about is, do we stick with the 6 o'clock start time, which we've changed because of the internet traffic? So if you've got any feelings about this, whether you prefer 6 or 7, I don't think we've set the timetable for next term yet. So if you've got any views and you prefer 6 or 7, let me know just by email, because you've all got my email. And we'll take that into account. It doesn't really matter to me which time. I think the actual motor traffic is a bit less at 6 than at 7. I drive at 6, but that's minor. That doesn't really affect things. So just let me know if you've got any preference for the time. Just trying to think whether the rooms will be about at 6. Anyway, that's a technicality. We'll sort it. So let's start our session with our usual 5 minutes de-stressing with mindfulness meditation. So remember, this is just to calm the mind after whatever we've been doing today, either working at home, working not at home, whatever it is. Just have a few minutes to create a distance, make the mind a little bit more receptive, and by doing some breathing meditation. So let's start. So get a comfortable position. Either sitting, lying, cross-legged on a chair, whatever's most comfortable. If the body is relaxed and comfortable, the mind will usually follow. A moment to reflect on our great fortune to be able to come together in cyberspace, even during this time of the viral period, coronavirus. We can still do our practice. We can still study the Dharma. Wonderful. Doing our study, meditation, not just for our own good benefit, but for the benefit of those around us and those, all sentient beings, ultimately. The Mahayana motivation. So now just coming into the body, checking we are relaxed, shoulders and the neck and the head, muscles around the face and the eyes. Feel the weight of the body on the chair or the floor. With each out breath, we just have a sense of letting go. All the holding on, all the busyness, any tension in the body, breathe it out. And feeling the gentle pull of gravity into the earth and surrendering to Mother Earth, allowing ourselves to be held by the earth, nothing to hold on to. Letting go. Now just coming into the breath, the movement of the body with the breath, the gentle rhythm of the breath. Staying with the breath and just being mindful of when we wander, the mind wanders off, being alert for that. When it happens, it's normal, let go. Just a thought. Relax and come back to the breath. Staying with the breath. The full flow of the in-breath and the full flow of the out-breath. We're right there. Right, so let's start. I hope you received the notes. I think I sent them out yesterday. So this is. I also sent you out the handout, the question and answers for this module, which are quite extensive. I think about 3 pages of them. So I hope that's helpful. I think we don't have time to or opportunity to have a discussion. I thought I'd better give you the answers. Of course, the answers are sometimes flexible. There's no sort of one right answer quite often. Some of the questions a little bit, some we didn't cover all the topics there because basically the teacher has really the option of what topics to include in each module. They give you a list of possible topics, maybe 4 or 5 different lists, and then it's up to the teacher to just choose how many weeks and what topics to put in. So that's why there might be some topics, questions that we haven't covered. But if we haven't, don't worry, because this topic is just like, it's called presenting the path. It's actually just flying over the whole of the Buddhist teachings, a bird's eye view. So it's whatever we do cover in this module, we come back to. So we have a whole module on karma. We have a whole module on compassion, a whole module on wisdom, a whole module on the guru. So so it's a it's just getting a taste. So we'll come back if we when we come to the subsequent modules. This is just module 3 of I think it's 13. So we have oh, hi Julia, good to see you there. Go ahead. So this week it's basically looking at this this higher scope being. Remember, just basic what we've covered so far is just a little bit of the history of Buddhism, and then we looked at this way of approaching Buddhism, the 3 levels, the basic level, which is wanting to improve our situation in this life and in future lives, looking ahead in the next rebirth and creating the causes for the future. That's the basic capable being, sometimes called the lower capable being. The middle capable being is looking even beyond that, which we had a look at that last week, looking to get completely out of rebirth altogether, becoming completely liberated, so cleansing all the stains, all the mental obscurations, purifying, and actually attaining nirvana and dwelling in that bliss of nirvana forever. So that being is completely liberated, no suffering ever, no rebirth, and is in a state of bliss forever. So that's the middle capable being, pretty nice. But the higher capable being is looking even further. He's worried, the higher capable being is concerned that if he goes into the bliss of nirvana forever, what about the people left behind, the beings that are not in nirvana, that are still suffering, that haven't travelled the path to liberation? So this is what the higher capable being is concerned about, the great scope being. And so higher capable being has in mind becoming liberated, free of all stains and all obscurations, so that he can then come back and lead other beings out, show them teachings, just like the Buddha provided teachings, a way, showing the way to travel the path out of suffering. But this is the higher capable being. So the best source, certainly in my point of view, for the study of bodhicitta, bodhicitta is this wish, this great compassion that the higher capable being has. I put the reference there in the notes, the book by Lamrim that came out last year, and here it is, bodhicitta, lovely picture of Lamrim. But it's good to have when we come to the module on bodhicitta. We're using that a lot. So, so I put it there, and I've used it quite a lot for tonight's discussion, talk more than discussion. So that's probably the latest, the most comprehensive and up-to-date text on the topic of compassion, bodhicitta, which is what the higher capable being is practicing. So let's have a look. I put in that this is prayer of the higher capable being that comes from the morning prayers. So last we've got prayers of each of the capable beings, which I've put in the notes over the past few weeks. But this one, just in those few lines there, let's have a look at it. Sums up what the higher capable being is praying for. So the higher capable being says, independence upon that, okay, what the middle capable being is aspiring for, total liberation, nirvana. Even though I achieve mere liberation, please bless me to see that there is no sentient beings of the sixth type. That's all the beings that are in samsara, that are in suffering, the lower realms and the upper realms, and the human realm. The realm that this is, we'll come back to this. This is the realization that if we accept reincarnation, rebirth, then every other being is being, we've been in a mother-father relationship to every other being, not just mother-father, but every possible relationship to every other being, if we've been in this eternal cycle of rebirth. So bless me to see that there's not one sentient being that hasn't been my mother and father, and thinking I must fulfill their purpose, we'll come back to that. May I be able to reverse the mind seeking the lower happiness of nirvana. Reverse the mind seeking the lower happiness of nirvana. And by way of equalizing and exchanging myself for others, generate the precious mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta. Follow the conduct of the conqueror's children, the bodhisattvas, the six parameters, and so forth. Okay, so that's what the higher capable being is praying for, that to not be seduced by the beings that have reached liberation, are in a state of total bliss, liberation, no suffering. So the prayer is not reverse that mind, wanting to be there, and thinking of the people that we've left behind, the mother and father, sentient being, and exchanging my situation for theirs, so that they can, I can take on their suffering. So this is what we're going to look at. That's called the mind of the bodhicitta mind, and the people who are the beings who've attained that are called bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas is a credible high state. So that's just like a capsule, the high capable being in a nutshell there. So let's now just look a bit deeper at what this bodhicitta is, compassion towards all things. So there's an extract there by Shantideva saying, beautiful, very poetic line, a few lines. It is the supreme medicine. This is talking about what bodhicitta is. The supreme medicine that quells the world's disease, very topical. It's the tree that shelters all beings that are wandering and tired on the path of conditioned existence, the tree that shelters all beings. But this is by Shantideva, coming from Shantideva was one of the great Indian scholars, masters from the Nalanda tradition, which His Holiness the Dalai Lama often cites as being his main source of teachers and teachings. Nalanda was the university in the north of India, where all these many great, there was one of them. Shantideva was a very quiet scholar at Nalanda of him. In fact, they used to call him, whatever the Sanskrit version is of Mr. Eat, Sleep and Go to the Toilet. All they could see that he was doing was eating, sleeping and going to the toilet. There just seems to be no, he didn't seem to be actually doing anything useful. So they were actually just about to kick him out of the monastery, the university, the monastery. So and he changed it over, said, "Oh yes, I'll give you a talk. What would you like? Middle, beginners, middle, or advanced?" And they said, "Oh, advanced." If you like. So he agreed to give them a talk, and because they weren't expecting him to be able to talk at all, they set up this throne that was so high that he couldn't actually even, a normal person couldn't have got up on top of it. But Shantideva was an incredibly realized being. He's a bodhisattva, possibly a Buddha. So when he walked into the room, he suddenly just flew up onto the top of the throne. He was actually just seated there, and he taught the most unbelievably profound teachings, which is now called the Bodhisattva way of life, which is sense of Buddhism entails two aspects. So not harming the other beings, and that means abstaining from any non-virtuous conduct, even those who harm us. The Theravadan tradition of perfect conduct, do not commit any non-virtuous actions, so don't harm other beings. If you can't help, don't harm. So, but then there's an and on this to make it the Mahayana. So the Mahayana, the great vehicle, says that yes, that's fine, don't harm, don't commit non-virtuous actions, but also help them in any way we can. This is the active part, not just abstaining from harming, but also helping whenever we can. And so helping in the greatest, in the mundane sense, but also leading them by teaching them the way out of samsara to enlightenment. So this need, understand the needs of each individual sentient being and give them what they need, give the guidance at each particular time, the appropriate guidance for each being. But this is the tradition that Lama Tsongkhapa, or the Mahayana tradition, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, that taught and practiced by Lama Tsongkhapa and also by Atisha and Nagarjuna. So Lama Tsongkhapa said these two pieces of advice is the entire Buddha Dharma. All of it is there. So I think it's just to so that we understand how incredibly profound the mind is of the Bodhisattva, the bodhicitta mind, the great compassionate mind. I don't know whether you've ever read the Sutra of Golden Light, but there's a great story in there of one of the Buddha's past lives. The Shataka accumulated unbelievable merit of multiple lifetimes to become Buddha when he did, Buddha Shakyamuni. So the other brothers were told to go away. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, in his that incarnation as the prince, sent his brothers away and says he has to do some sort of spiritual practice with this tiger. He felt incredible, overwhelming compassion. So he worked out that the only way he could save the cubs, which would have caused suffering for the cubs and incredibly negative action from the mother tiger. So these guides with us day and night, helping. all of humanity and all sentient beings. So, so then to put this, the bodhicitta, the mind of the bodhicitta, this great compassionate mind, in context, how do we get there? The three principles of the path, you might remember, we mentioned last couple of weeks, renunciation, bodhicitta, and understanding emptiness, wisdom realizing emptiness, renunciation, great compassion, wisdom realizing emptiness. So we need renunciation. Of those three, Lama Zopa Rinpoche says bodhicitta is by far the main one. And so even if we just attempt bodhicitta, a wish to aspire to bodhicitta, we've made our lives meaningful. But to get there, we do need to have renunciation of this life. So we need to actually have a strong wish or realization that our present situation, even though it might be comfortable, is actually not. It's not pleasure. It's not happiness. Not happiness. And it's not going to lead us out of suffering. So we need to sort of realize that this particular life is unsatisfactory, mentally rejected. We can stay in the world of core, but realize its limitations. It's not going to move us along the path. So, so he contrasts in his book. Lama Zopa Rinpoche mentions about how concentration, just calming the mind, is not nearly as much an achievement as bodhicitta. So it's concentration. There are some, I think, practitioners who see that as more important than bodhicitta. So he says that just being able to, we have all actually achieved shamatha in past lives. We've managed that feat of being able to put our mind single-pointedly on a single object for as long as we wish, and yet that didn't release us from cyclic existence. We're still suffering. We're still in a cycle of cyclic existence. So, so by contrast, bodhicitta, in all its forms, even when we're aspiring for bodhicitta, we're making progress, much more meaningful progress than attaining good, perfect concentration. So that's something that he often brings up in teachings, not just in his book, but when he's just giving regular teachings. This emphasis on how great and how important great compassion is. So just looking at the two ways of classifying bodhicitta, one is conventional and the other ultimate. So the conventional bodhicitta, this is the mind that is wishing to become enlightened to benefit all beings. That the only reason the bodhisattva wants to become enlightened is to give benefit to others, to help them escape all the suffering for every single sentient being. So, and of that, within that conventional bodhicitta, there's the practitioner who, it's called by Lama Zopa Rinpoche as effortful bodhicitta, where we're actually contriving it, we're actually rehearsing it, effortful and effortless. So as beginners, we can see the worth of great compassion. We do various practices, use analytical meditation to use equanimity, establish equanimity, well-being, and to develop loving kindness, compassion. So this is where we make an effort to entrench these habits into our mind. So eventually it becomes effortless. So that over a period of perhaps lifetimes, our practice will become easier and easier because our mind becomes more acquainted with that mind of compassion. So that's conventional, and the ultimate bodhicitta is actually the wisdom realizing emptiness coming from the mind of the bodhisattva. So the bodhisattva has now has achieved shamatha, concentration, in order to understand emptiness, and in order to understand emptiness, to liberate all sentient beings. That's the ultimate aim. So this ultimate bodhicitta is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So there we have the two birds that Robina talks about in her talk. The two birds to enlightenment, conventional bodhicitta, and then that conventional bodhicitta combined with our concentration allows us to understand emptiness. We need both. We need both wings, great compassion and understanding emptiness, wisdom and emptiness, to fly to enlightenment. So the Mahayana call this wisdom realized emptiness that the bodhisattva attains as ultimate bodhicitta. So both those are needed to attain enlightenment. Incredibly distant. It's basically achieving omniscience through great compassion. So when I've been reading Lama Yeshe's autobiography. I think I've told you it's called Big Love, which is just came out a few weeks ago, and it is available at VI. There are 2 copies, Vajrayana Institute, which I guess will go on the into the library when the centre opens. But just all very much whole part of the biography are actual testimonials of students about Lama Yeshe's compassion, great compassion, extraordinary compassion. So he just, again and again, virtually every time he's with, he's giving teachings or he's talking to his student, he's serving. He's just there to serve. That's the only reason he's alive. His health was so incredibly bad. He had a heart problem when he was a child, and I've forgotten the name of the disease. But so later on, and his heart became very swollen, and all the doctors recommend that he has an operation, which he refused to have. So he basically said that it was his spiritual, or his mind. He just says it was his mind that kept him alive. Sometimes his heart stopped. He said he just, particularly in the morning when he woke up, he had to actually start the heart using his mind. So he being a bodhisattva, also he could predict exactly how long he was going to live. Very accurately estimated, told students 2 years before he passed away that he would live another 2 years. So he was busily completing all the works, incredibly extensive works that he wanted to complete in his life, setting up centres, arranging things like the building of the great stupa of compassion in Bendigo, setting up the Lanta Monastery, Kopan, all the centres of the world. So this is what kept him alive, because he was working for other sentient beings. So a perfect example of bodhisattva, and right down to the minute ability to see what each person needed. Sometimes it was just a word of encouragement, a hug. Sometimes it was just being able to see, even though the person was not an obvious, not in the front row of a group of people, he would find this person who needed some particular advice and give it to them. So this happened again and again. And all these anecdotes all coming from students. So, it's very compelling reading to see that how a bodhisattva lives and helps beings moment by moment. So, getting back more to the what the benefits of bodhicitta. So I've just selected a few bits and pieces from Lama Zopa's book. There were quite a lot of benefits, so I just selected a few. The sole gateway to the Mahayana. So it's Lama Tsongkhapa said this is the trunk of the tree. So the tree of the Mahayana. So that obviously the trunk of the tree supports the branches, supports all the leaves, supports the shade that is providing comfort to those underneath it, shelter. So it's very the gateway to the Mahayana. So this is the main entrance to Mahayana teachings. So if you happen to walk into just about any center that is teaching Tibetan Buddhism, there will normally be some reference to bodhicitta. There'll be pictures of Chenrezig, who's the deity of compassion, whose holiness the Dalai Lama, who is the embodiment of Chenrezig, and there'll probably be teachings on compassion in some form or another. So another one, we accumulate enormous merit. So again, if we have this motivation in the back of our mind, that this motive to obtain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, when we're working, when we're doing, as Lama Zopa says, everything we do, including walking, sleeping, talking, chatting, going to work, all the mundane activities, as well as our prayers and our meditation, if it's done with bodhicitta activities, as well as our prayers and our meditation, if it's done with bodhicitta, then becoming a great practitioner. So we can actually accumulate a merit from every second that we have that motivation. Incredibly powerful. We purify negative karma rapidly. So it was actually the bodhicitta. When Lama Yeshe was saying it was his mind that was keeping him alive, it's actually his bodhicitta, his incredible motivation and bodhicitta that was keeping him alive. We accomplish whatever we wish. And Lama Zopa gives some examples of what he would probably think is fairly minor miraculous power, being able to control the weather. He gives an example of Geshe Rabten, I think it was, one of his teachers, when he was in India, in the Buksa camp, and the refugees from Tibet all were put in this very difficult place. Tibetans died from the heat. There was an occasion, public gathering, where some event was happening, and it was raining. So Geshe Rabten, using his powers, stopped the rain. So he saw it with his own eyes. Another one is probably closer to home. Lama Yeshe was they were having an open day at Atisha when he was there consecrating the ground for the Great Stupa, and the weather was appalling, totally appalling, and had been for days. But Lama Yeshe said, we can't have that, and so he said, we just have to do some prayers for the spirits that control the weather. And so they have a picture. It's actually a picture of him in the book doing like a smoking ceremony and making these offerings. And sure enough, the clouds parted at exactly the right moment, and blue sky, sunshine prevailed for the rest of the day. So we accomplish whatever we wish. These, by the way, powers become a source of happiness for others. So Lamrim says, just there's something about just sitting, listening to teachings on compassion and bodhicitta, just listening, that will uplift the mind. The mind is down, flat, depressed. There's something very, very uplifting about just listening to teachings on bodhicitta. So, just looking at the time, how do we develop bodhicitta? What are the two main methods? There are two main methods. One is called the 7-point cause and effect method, and the other one is equalizing and exchanging self for others. So these two methods both have the same objective, to be able to develop the mind of great compassion. So I'll just briefly sort of go through the steps, but I should have put in just before that both of them are preceded by developing equanimity. So we need equanimity, the mind of equanimity, to actually succeed in either of those techniques of developing bodhicitta. So I think last week we did the meditation on equanimity, where we have friend, enemy, and stranger. Maybe I'm mixing it up with my dropping meditation. But in any event, that practice of having an equal attitude to all, where we level the garden and take away our discriminating attitude, where we usually like people who help us, we dislike people who have harmed us, and those who don't do either, we're neutral towards. So this is the opposite of bodhicitta. The bodhisattva has equal regards to every sentient being, equally. There's no discrimination. So so this is practice where we actually look really careful at how we discriminate and what's going on, how these categories lack substance. There's no inherent friend from their own side. There's it's basically our own mind that it's from our side that we see these categories, but we actually think from the outside there is an inherent friend there, always will be, always has been, which we know when we look closely. It's not the case. And same with the enemy, the difficult one. And then the neutral person, not really much thought given to them because they haven't done anything for it. So so this tendency is something that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has spoken of just in the last few weeks when he was giving his online teachings, and his occurring theme is the importance of equanimity, and how racism particularly, which is the top topic at the moment, and nationalism, seeing basic discriminating on basis of people's colour, on basis of their country, their sex, their whatever. These ways of discriminating are the opposite to equanimity, and actually the opposite to developing world peace, and basically the cause of wars. So setting up these divisions, again, he said this is something that is to be worked against, And he says there is once a week he's been giving the teaching. It's usually about once a week he's been giving the teaching, and he's been given some empowerments, some transmissions, some mantra transmissions, and all the preliminary talks seems to be emphasizing this need for developing world peace and compassion, equanimity, and he's also focused on children. He said, if we start, the education system at the moment doesn't mention compassion. In fact, at the last talk, which I think was on Saturday, I watched, it was a mind life science conference. So one of the scientists there, who's a psychologist, said when he started studying psychology, not one of his psychology books had the word compassion in it, not one. It's in Western psychology. That was probably 30 years ago, I think he said. So a very interesting talk he gave. He said this, wasn't even mentioned, the importance of compassion, let alone loving kindness or anything like that. But he said now things have changed in the last, I think he said 5 years, maybe 10 years, that the word compassion has been appearing, and in a very sense that there is acknowledgement that it's absolutely crucial for the development of young children. We can see it even in the animal world, and that for healthy minds, there needs to be this understanding of compassion, practice of compassion, loving kindness. So he said things are looking up in that way in Western psychology. Of course, Buddhist psychology, it's the bedrock of a healthy mind and healthy body. In fact, it's going back to Lama Yeshe, was what kept him alive, compassion, loving kindness. So that's all about equanimity, because equanimity is the beginning of the basis of compassion, where we don't discriminate. So let's have a look at the 7-point cause and effect method. So this is basically using the kindness of the mother as a way of developing appreciation and loving kindness in our own minds. We use the kindness of the mother as an example. So we'll just look at those. There are seven points, the 7-point cause and effect method. So the first step is to see all sentient beings or someone close to us as our mothers. So the mother is usually regarded as the mother-child relationship is the best example of loving kindness, compassion. But some of us may not have had that experience of a loving mother, so it is okay in the practice to use somebody who's actually, given us loving kindness. Could be an auntie, grandparent, someone close. As an example, and then we use the example because we need to expand our vision. We use our understanding of reincarnation, past life, that if there has been infinite numbers of past lives, then we've had infinite numbers of mothers, and each unenlightened being has been in multiple forms, mothers, fathers, so multiple relationships to every other sentient being. So it means that in some stage, every other being exists now has been our mother. So that's the basis of step 1. Step 2, the kindness. So without going, remember there's a whole module on this. I think we have at least 4 weeks. So I'll just skim over it. So the kindness of the mother includes the giving us the body, protecting our body, night and day, keeping us warm, out of harm's way, teaching us how to look after ourselves, going through unbelievable hardships to sacrifice their own comforts, creating sometimes negative karma for our own benefit. So giving up their own food, for example, to feed us, their own habits. So numerous examples of how the mothers are kind. Examples of how the mothers are kind. So we'll come when we do the module. We'll go much deeper. Developing the wish to repay the kindness. So the example is often given of if our own mother was in a bad situation and heading. They give the metaphorical example of heading for a cliff. She's blind and she's going to fall off the cliff. Of course, we're going to immediately do all we can to stop her from falling off the cliff. We'll rescue her. So this instinctive wish to save the mother from harm, having been given so much kindness from them in our childhood. The next one is cultivating affectionate love, seeing. So what this means, there's this distinction in Tibetan Buddhism between love and compassion, which I sort of didn't get for many years. Actually, I was trying to sort of understand the difference because traditionally the definition is that love is wanting other beings to be happy, and compassion is being concerned that they don't suffer. So one's more focused on the positive, wanting them happy, and the other one is making sure they don't suffer. And if necessary, taking the suffering ourselves so that they don't suffer. So, but Rinpoche says that actually the definition of love is actually different to that. It's more than just wanting them to be happy. He says it's literally to see the beauty in beings, to see them. So in the same way, the Buddha sees only the beauty in other beings. The Bodhisattva sees only the beauty in other beings. Lamrim, for example, saw the good in everyone and always brought that out. So there was this wonderful feeling in his presence that your best part is blossoming in his presence. Extraordinary feeling. So this seems to be the true meaning of loving kindness. I'm not sure what the Sanskrit word is, but and then so that's number 4, affectionate love, and cultivate great compassion. So this is the wish to be free from all suffering. Every single being to be free from all suffering. This is the most powerful way, the seed of enlightenment, said to be. Yes, not one single sentient being is left out by the Bodhisattva. Okay, so if we leave out the Pol Pot, the Hitler, the Donald Trump, or if there is discrimination to even one being, we're not practicing bodhicitta. This is how advanced the mind has to be. So it's a mighty powerful mind and profound. So I'm just reading my notes. So, okay, so another good traditional story, if we sort of want to remind ourselves of the depth of compassion of a bodhisattva, is the story of a sangha, who great meditator, who spent years and years in the cave trying to develop compassion. years and years and years, felt he wasn't making any progress. He would go back out of the cave and then go back into the village life and realise that he wasn't satisfied in the world and he wanted to develop compassion. So finally he actually came out the cave and had decided that it was a lost cause. And there he saw, lying on the road, was this dog dying of gangrene, festering flesh, and there was maggots eating the flesh as the dog was dying. So overwhelmed by compassion, Asanga was thinking, how can he help? He wants to take the maggots off the dog just so the dog's life is saved. He doesn't want to destroy the maggots, so he uses his tongue to lick the maggots off the dog one by one. And as he's doing that, that mind of unbelievable compassion for the dog and the maggots gives him a vision of the Buddha, and the dog turns into the Buddha. Okay, so that mind of bodhicitta, so powerful, could see that the Buddha was always there. The Buddha said, "I'm always been here. I don't think I haven't, but your mind has been obscured." So having that mind of compassion cleared all the obstacles, so that now you can see me, see the Buddha, and have direct communication with the Buddha. That's how powerful that mind is. So I'm conscious of the time because I'm going to do a compassion meditation with Chenrezig. So just moving quickly through the second one, equalizing, exchanging oneself for others. So basically this is the Tonglen practice, giving and taking. So we again start off with equanimity and visualize. There's quite a lot of visualization in this practice, Tonglen. Visualize suffering beings in front of us, and just using our mind to wish that we could take the suffering beings off those beings and experience that for ourselves on behalf of them. So that we visualize usually black smoke coming in with each in-breath, destroying our self-cherishing mind, which is stopping us from achieving bodhicitta. And then we breathe out all our merit, all our good qualities in the form of white light. So this is taking and giving in a nutshell. So using our own pain, if we have a problem, to develop compassion, say, I've got this, whatever it is, pain, mental pain, physical pain, and by my experiencing this, I'm experiencing it on behalf of others. May I experience it so that they won't have to suffer. So this is a very powerful way of use our own problems to experience compassion on behalf of others, to develop compassion using giving and taking. Okay, so that's the second one. Now a quick look at the six perfections. The six perfections are what was taught by Shantideva, that great being who I mentioned in the beginning of the talk. And the reference, I've got the book there. This book was one of the very few books available in English when I first went to India to do some practice in Tushita, Dharamsala. Tibetan Library of Works and Archives had a few publications. But this book, The Bodhisattva's Way of Life, had just been translated by Stephen Batchelor, got published 1987. So it's now been republished and retranslated as and retitled called The Way of the Bodhisattva. So I've got both those there. I think because I grew up, my preference is for the first one, Bodhisattva's Way of Life, because that's what I sort of first met. I have got to look quickly at the second publication. It's also very good. So basically, these six perfections are what Shantideva taught in his incredible teachings at Nalanda. And it's the core of the Mahayana path to develop. So those techniques, giving and taking, Tonglen, and the 7-point cause and effect, it's the techniques, the practices, but in the context of the six perfections. So the six perfections are the systematic way of training the mind in great compassion. So they're called paramitas in Sanskrit, and the word paramita means gone beyond, so gone beyond suffering. So these gone beyond samsaric, all samsaric obscurations of the mind. Generosity, giving, generosity. So this is giving not just physically when we can, so we don't suddenly feel Lamrim Yishi often makes fun of Westerners who first hear the teachings and they want to give all their material goods away and go and live in a cave or on the streets. So giving what we can, but the actual main practice is mental attitude, the wish to give. So wish to give as against miserliness, wish to hold back and keep things for ourselves. So material giving, food, clothing when we can give charitably, as we've got the opportunity many times to do that. We can give Dharma, give teachings, reciting prayers for others, if we've got that opportunity. Giving protection, saving lives, so saving lives of animals and rescuing people, distress, opposite to laziness, and being happy. So Tantra is the quick path. So the Bodhisattva will be drawn to Tantra because they're so motivated to relieve suffering. They want to do it as quickly as possible. So if they use the Sutrayana path, that's the non-tantric path, it's going to take many eons for them to attain Buddhahood. But if they use the Tantric path, they can actually speed it up, even obtaining enlightenment in one life if they're incredibly skillful practitioners. So because of that, they're driven to practice Tantric as the quick path. And of course, you need a perfect teacher to give you transmission, and you need perfect renunciation, perfect mirror, to practice Tantra and become enlightened one very quickly. But we can practice Tantra in a much more modified form. We don't need to have perfect renunciation, perfect bodhicitta. So that's why our teachers, Lamrim Yishi, Lamrim Zopa, have given initiations for those of us who have some experience of renunciation, some experience of bodhicitta, some experience of emptiness, some understanding, basic understanding. So we can have the seeds of the tantric vehicle, the tantric teachings can be planted in our continuum. So so this is why His Holiness has also been giving some transmissions, like transmitting the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. So just on that, the meditation I've chosen is this very simple generic meditation. So then we can dedicate any positive energy, that merit we've created from this practice towards our understanding and experience of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, its benefit of all beings. And just reciting Lamrim Zopa's dedication due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me, numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, may all wars, sickness, famine, torture, poverty, and economic problems in the world, and all dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately. and may perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time. May